Hi everyone, my name is Chris, and this is a slightly shorter version of a demonstration available on my YouTube channel, where I go over the three main websites used for booking vaccine appointments in New York. First I go over New York State, then New York City, and then the New York City Health and Hospitals website as well. I hope that this is helpful, and we're going to start off with the New York State site. So here we have the New York State site. It covers locations all over the state. And as you can see, some of the locations indicate appointments available and some do not. We're going to be putting in information for a patient. We called her Vaccine Hunter. And I'm going to show you what happens if we put her in based on her age, that she qualifies because of her age, or if we put her in because she qualifies as someone working in a public-facing grocery job. So you'll see here I'm putting in her address. I have her living in the Empire State Building for the purpose of the demonstration. She's a female. She lives in New York. She also works in New York. You only need one or the other for qualified work. You can live in New Jersey or Connecticut, and if you have a job in New York. Now this, I clicked yes here so you could just see if we were also going instead as a health qualification, that's where that would come down. So I've got her as a younger person now, under the age of qualification, and now I need to go through all the different jobs. The first one deals with nursing homes or other group homes, and then you'll see the next thing pops up. She's not a first responder. She's not employed by corrections. We're going to go through all these questions. In this sample, she's a grocer. She could be any one of these things and qualify. There's even additional ones. So yep, okay, she works in a public-facing grocery store occupation. It then allows you to click I consent at the bottom in that check mark. But I'm going to make her back to date of birth 1950. You'll see that none of that is needed. She can just go straight through if she is over the age. Updated as of today, it's March 10th that I'm doing this narration. This was filmed before the change to allow 60-year-olds. So, okay, she qualifies by age. I'm going to hit Locate Providers. You hit Locate Providers, you see the closest location is the Javits Center. At the Javits Center, it says no appointments available currently when I filmed this. We're going to talk about in this video how to see the appointments other people are canceling and get those, even though at that very moment there's nothing available. First thing though is I want you to see an appointment so you know what it is you're trying to click on during this activity. So we're going to a place that has actively available appointments: State Fair Expo, New York State Fairgrounds. So once we click on the New York State Fairgrounds, we're going to see these appointments. And the way you book an appointment is to scroll to the bottom of this section, this box, and hit Select a Visit Time. And then you see these little times with bubbles next to them. I'm showing this to you so that when you see one at the Javits Center, when there won't be quite so many, you recognize what to do. So you click that little bubble, you hit the next button, and then you have time to fill in the person's name and information. Okay, going back to the Javits Center, because that's the closest to our sample patient. So we're going to select the Javits Center even though it says there's no appointments available. And as you can see, it still says no appointments available. But we're going to use Command R on the keyboard for a Macintosh or Control R for a PC to make a little flash on the screen and refresh to check for new appointments. This is how we're going to sit here without having to put in her information all over again and see appointments as they pop up when other people cancel. So as you can see, here we've got one, and I'm going to click on it. Oh, I clicked on the first one, which was a mistake. Because as you can see, there's nothing in here now. There's no appointment bubble in between the big purple bars. And but if I liked this date, if say I really liked the March 20th date, it's good for the person I'm trying to book for, I can sit and click Next, and where it says error, nothing's here, another little appointment might pop up if someone cancels for this specific date. But it's actually not that great a date because this was filmed on March the 4th and March the 20th is a ways out. So let's close this window and go back and pick up a new one for the Javits Center. No appointments available. We're just now looking for any date that occurs. So when I first started doing this, I was clicking at random, just clicking refresh on the screen. But I've learned since from some people who are savvier at it than me, that this comes out every 6 minutes, with the most appointments showing up at 2 minutes after the hour and then 32 minutes after the hour. But at these 6-minute increments, you're going to see appointments pop up most of the time if there are cancellations in the system. So I'm going to speed up the video here, and here it is. It's 5:56. I'm clicking refresh. Ta-da! We have an appointment. I'm not clicking on the first one. I'm going to the second one because everyone else is going to the first one. I click the little bubble. I hit next. Unfortunately, I wasn't quite fast enough, but that's how you're going to see it when it comes up. And I'm going to pick up a new window, and I'm going to do it again. It's still close enough to that time that there's some others remaining there. I didn't do it quite fast enough, but with some practice, you'll get there. Next up, it's the New York City Health Department's website. From this screen, you can schedule a first dose, reschedule an appointment. You could schedule a second dose if for some reason the person needs a second dose from New York City and they don't already have their appointment scheduled. Most of the time that is scheduled when they leave the facility after they get their first shot. But if you need one, that's where you schedule a second dose. You can also cancel an appointment. Any appointment from this website has a corresponding code, and you put it in under reschedule appointment in order to change it. So we can get an appointment, and if we don't love the time, we can improve it without losing it. So first we start off with eligibility. And again, this was filmed on March the 4th. Their eligibility has now expanded to age 60 and up. But for this demonstration, we're still using Vaccine Hunter, born in 1950. She is over the age of 65. She also is a grocer, even if we changed her date of birth and she's eligible. So we're going to say age 65 or older. You can make more than one choice for her here, and you can see all the different choices of occupations. Those will be expanded as eligibility expands. There's also the health questions there at the bottom for people with health conditions that make them eligible for the vaccine. So we select whatever of these we wish, then we go to the bottom, and we hereby agree that what we're saying is true, and then we go to next. Once we hit next, we scroll here and we have to put in her full name, and it asks if she's had a reaction to the vaccine before, and we certify the information. We go down to the bottom. We have to do the I am not a robot a couple of times in this process. I've done this a lot as a volunteer. I've identified every bridge and every parking meter and crosswalk. Here we're identifying the bridges. We got them all. We click verify. Now we hit next. I must have missed something. Got to go back up. So if it doesn't go, just go check and see what you might have missed. Now here, we actually have appointments appearing. When I filmed this on the 4th, it happened to be when they were putting out a whole lot of appointments. Quite frequently, you'll see no appointments available. Here's what that looks like. This is the no appointments available. Either way, the way to refresh this site without having to put in all of the information at the beginning in every time is to put in the person's zip code, then delete the last number and put it in again. Every time you redo the zip code, it refreshes the page. I'll show you how now. So I'm cutting and pasting her zip code and putting it in there. I could also use really any New York City zip code. And that last digit is what makes it refresh. And you'll see, because there are many appointments out there right at the moment that I filmed this, you'll see that they change every time. Other people have taken appointments, and every time the screen flashes because I put in the last digit, delete it, put it back in, back and forth, it updates. So I'm going to select an appointment time now, and I'm going to show you what happens when I go next. It went very smoothly that time because there were lots of choices, and I must have been the only or the first one who grabbed that time. So then I can put in her information. And after I put in her information, I'm going to get a confirmation code. And it'll look kind of like this, a combination of letters and numbers. And that's what I would use to change the appointment if I need to, or cancel the appointment if I need to. That's where I would change it. If I needed to change that appointment, I can put in that number, and it'll go back and give me pretty much the same search again. Now, I should note for all of these websites, once you get to the section where you're putting in the address, typing in the person's name, etc., there's less time pressure. You have a ticking clock, but it's not the same kind of speed move that you're trying to make where you're clicking an appointment time and then clicking next. Frequently you'll see that an appointment was already taken when you click next. Try not to get discouraged, just like the first website. You want to do it as quickly as you can. You'll get a little faster every time, and eventually you'll get an appointment when someone else is canceling it, or as in this case, you've seen what it looks like when the city is putting out lots and lots of appointments all at once. Okay, last but not least, I'm going to show you New York City Health and Hospitals. And this website behaves differently if you're going in incognito or private browsing versus if you're doing it in a regular old browser window. And I do show you both. Again, everything I demonstrate here is available in a longer video on my YouTube page, but this is a shorter one just for the purpose of showing you quickly. If you need to see it a little slower, by all means, please take a look at that video. So I sped this up a little bit. You're going to go through these questions carefully and check and see. They ask you how, are you over the age of 18? Where do you live? Some health questions like, are you pregnant or breastfeeding? Just answer all of these questions for the patient that you're trying to book. Now you get to the part where you're selecting their eligibility category. Is it by age? And again, at this time, when I filmed this, 65 and up was the qualification level. It's now been moved down to 60 as of today, March 10th. But I filmed this on the 4th. So I'm putting in her date of birth, and that's the end of the question if she is over the age of 65. If she's under 65, and now under the age of 60, I need to indicate her line of work. And for the purpose of this example, I am stating that she is a public-facing grocery worker. But here are all the different other reasons that one might be qualified. If she's going in as a grocer, I need to put in an employer and a phone number. Here I'm putting in grocer and the phone number. Now this is in incognito mode. I do think incognito mode is faster for all of these websites. There are less cookies that get picked up or something like that. I'm not very tech savvy, I'm going to be candid, but that's what I've been told. So I like to do it in private browser mode. This is the way I prefer to do it. I put in her name, and then I check the box next to her name. And I scroll down. I do the I am not a robot. This time it's bicycles. I'm going to choose all the bicycles that I see. Hit verify. I must have missed something. Oh, there's one more. Verify and continue. Now in private browsing mode, you're going to see an orange bar pop up. When you click on that orange bar, another window pops out. And there you see what an appointment would look like. Doesn't always pop up right away with one. Sometimes it says no appointments available, and that's what we're doing here is learning how to refresh this website without having to go all the way back. If you just click refresh at the top of the screen, you've got to do it all over again, all those click boxes, and that takes a lot of time and slows you down from getting the appointment that you need. So in this window, what I'm doing to refresh it is I'm using Command and R or Control and R, depending on what kind of computer you have, and making this little screen refresh. And I'm going to do that until I see the little green boxes. This particular website, the Health and Hospitals website, tends to release appointments between midnight and 1 a.m. and then another batch of them at 1 o'clock in the morning. So it is a stay up late kind of an activity, but there are frequently fresh appointments that come out at that time. During the day, frequently it's cancellations, sometimes smaller groups of appointments, but we're watching for them by clicking refresh. Now here's what it looks like when you get one. You do another I am not a robot. You hit continue as a guest. And just like the other websites, once you have this screen where you can type in the information for the patient, you have a little bit more time. There are fancier ways to do all of this involving auto refresh and all sorts of things, but I'm showing you just the very basics. Now, I'm not going to enter all the information and book this appointment because obviously this is not a real patient and I don't want to take an appointment that should go to somebody else. But you have a few minutes to fill in this information. This appointment is yours now. And an email will go to whatever email address you put in here. You can cancel from this website. Sometimes it takes a phone call or to set up a what they call a My Chart account in order to cancel this appointment if you need to. Okay, now I'm showing you what it looks like not in incognito mode, and this is the way to do the refresh that doesn't involve you having to refill out the whole page. You just check and uncheck the box next to the name, and in this version, not incognito mode, the little window with the beating heart and where the times would be popping up are down in the bottom there in that box. So again, to refresh in a non-incognito, just a standard browser window, you check and uncheck the box next to the person's name. Last but certainly not least, I want to show you two other resources. The first is TurboVax. It's an aggregator website that a gentleman kindly started that brings together all these pieces of information. It'll show you what appointments are available right now, and you can use that information to click through a link and book the appointment. The trouble is that a lot of other people are also doing that, so I find it more helpful to use this information to let me know where movement is happening in general. If the New York City site is putting out appointments in the last 10 minutes, it may continue to put out appointments. So it lets me know where activity is happening at one glance. Another resource is New York City vaccine list. And I'm told by some colleagues that I've been volunteering with that this can be extra helpful in regard to the Northwell Hospital system. Each of these sites can be useful for other smaller independent providers for the vaccine. So these are two resources among many that can give you a bird's eye view and can help direct you to where you ought to be looking at one point or another. I use this resource as well as Vaccine Finder to figure out where I ought to be looking at one point or another, or for one person's location or another. Thanks very much. I hope this has been helpful. I hope it's something you can use to help your friends and loved ones who are eligible for the vaccine to book their appointments as soon as possible. And if you want to see this with a little bit more detail and a little slower, I have a full-length, about a 35-minute video available on my YouTube channel going over the same material. Thank you so much. Wishing you and your family good health.